Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
Buckeye Time is sponsored by CrookedRiverRadio.com. Crooked River Radio is an internet radio station that is live 24/7 playing top 40 hits from the 60s through the 80s. You can find us on Live 365, Simple Radio, Roku, Radio Garden, and even Alexa, as well as our website. Come on and join us on the Crooked River.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah,
it is. It's an evening. I don't know how good it is, but it's an evening.
And my thing wouldn't unmute. Good evening, everybody. After that lovely delay for a second, we are here. I'm Erik.
I'm Pat.
And today, we have a show for you. And it should be a good one. So, we are talking,
Are we
snowstorm.
Talking? Are we talking?
Well, maybe. I don't
Somebody's
know.
talking.
I'm talking. I'll ramble for an hour and a half. I don't know what
Oh, that's nothing
you'll
new.
do.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, hey, that's nice. But, we're going to be talking the snowstorm that hit most of the country. If it didn't hit you, well, you should be glad.
And you're not in the right place in the country.
Yeah. So, but there's that. But for the most part today, we are talking NFL and specifically the whole Brian Flores lawsuit situation and where we think that's going to go. So I guess let's just open up the topic now. And for those of you listening, you can always comment on the live chat on Facebook, or we have a text line. If you want to give the number, Pat, because I don't remember it.
I don't remember what it is either. 440.
Let me pull it up. Once I share this out. 440. We should have it written down, but of course. 440. Anyway, let's start the topic and I'll get the number. 440-372-4688.
And that's text only.
Text only, yes. So,
let's let's do the weather thing first.
Okay.
If you are in and around the state of Ohio, you'd know what's going on right now. Or clear up into Maine and clear down into Texas. There was a rather large storm that created a ton of snow. In fact, it's still snowing here. They're saying overnight we're going to get another 6 inches on top of the probably 6 or 8 we've already got. And it's supposed to get windy overnight now, which could get to near blizzard conditions.
Mm-hmm. Which is good, though, it's happening overnight because most people aren't on the road.
Most of these schools are closed, even for tomorrow. The the outlook for that. I know Akron's already closed. Chicago Falls is closed, and some of the stuff around the Akron, Ohio
Stowe's
area.
closed too.
The Akron, Ohio area, and clear up into Cleveland, and clear up into New York and all that. The storm was epic proportions, more than what we normally get.
Mm-hmm.
It was started out as a Panhandle hook, and hooks usually get us 5-6 inches of snow. I've seen a bunch of these things come
For those who real quick, for those who don't know what a Panhandle hook is, can you explain it?
A Panhandle hook is a storm system that comes. It starts out west, dips into the into Texas or in the Texas area. The Texas Panhandle is what they call it, and then comes up out of the south. With it, it usually, when it gets over the ocean, it brings a lot of the moisture up, and it brings a lot of moisture in from the Gulf of Mexico. What that does is usually they're not that big. They're usually a 5-6 hour snow, and that's about it. Well, evidently, from what I saw over the course of the last week, the National Weather Service started seeing this stuff and seeing this might happen clear back on Friday, a week ago. And so they started talking about it Saturday. And me and my skeptical isms, I didn't believe it. But as they started talking about it, and I started researching it because I'm a weather person more or less in the Akron area, I started researching it out and saw there was some credence to it. So we started watching it. And as it got closer, the warnings got louder. And last night they told us we could, in fact, yesterday, the day before yesterday, which was Tuesday, they told us we had a possibility of 8 to 12 inches in the Akron area. And again, a little skeptical, but I thought, okay. And as I started seeing this stuff come up, it really looked like it was going to happen. This storm actually goes clear up into, I think it's Maine, or way up into the tip of the Northeast. And it goes as far down as Texas. It's about 2,200-mile storm, 2,140 something miles, if I remember rightly. And it's just dumping snow.
Yeah, and at an unbelievable rate too.
Could this be climate changing? Could it be? I don't want to get into the climate thing too much here, but I will say this: the human beings have only been on this planet a short time. This planet still knows how to take care of itself, and for them to blame a lot of this crap, this global warming, what have you, I'm not going to be on a political soapbox here very long, so bear with me. But for anybody to blame this on the human factor, I got a flipping mind. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. What I do believe is that the planet has a tendency to warm and cold and chill by itself. And you had an ice age a long time ago that did just basically that. It was cold for a long time. Everything froze over. And then all of a sudden it started thawing out again. So that being said, it's something we're going to have to put up with. The storms they do seem like they're getting bigger.
I was just going to say,
tsunamis or some, what do you call it, over there in Europe that have been larger than what I believe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's the equivalent of a hurricane over
there. This year seems like, and it's only been in the past 2.5 weeks, the two biggest storms of my lifetime. In 1 year. This is
that first one, that Sunday, really wasn't that big of a deal. It only snowed for 6 hours.
But the amount of snow that put down in that 6 hours was, I think, 12 to 18 inches in some places.
Well, I had reports of I had a 14.1 inch out or 14.5 inches out in the front yard here. It varied between about 8 inches and parts of Ashtabula, Ohio, actually reported 26 inches.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fair amount of snow.
Oh, yeah. That area tends to get, for those of you who aren't in this area listening, that area is in what's called the snow belt, which Pat could probably explain better than I can. But it's along the lakefront, Lake Erie. And they tend to get a lot more snow, and Pat could probably explain more why
Anytime that you're by a body of water such as Lake Erie, you get this stuff called lake effect snow. And what that does is it pushes the fronts and that come across, you tend to pick up moisture off the lake and they blow it inland. And it can come down. Most of the time it comes down as snow. But at least that's when everybody notices it. When it's during the summer, we still get lake effect. But you don't notice it because it's rain. And it's probably rain a lot of times around it.
Everybody just expects rain to be rain and that to come in the summer.
We're one of 7 places in the world that get lake effect snow or lake effect rain, snow, whatever. But there's only 7 Great Lakes in the world.
Where are the other places just for the
you're looking at Lake Superior, Huron, Erie. I don't remember the last. I know there's a huge lake over in Russia that does.
Oh.
That I think it's the deepest considered lake in the world. They get lake effect over there as bad, if not worse, than what we do. Interesting little facts here and there. That's all. Oh
yeah, that's what this show's for. On top of very thought-provoking topics, we're also about informing people, and that's why I wanted to do this topic, because Pat can inform people who don't know what lake effect is or what a panhandle hook is. Well, now we do.
Yeah, we do if you're on Facebook, if you look up a thing called, a group called Summit County Skywarn, that's my group, and you'll get all my weather information that comes out. That's neither here nor there. It's not a plug. It's just the facts. Just the facts.
Who cares? It's a plug, but I'm fine.
Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
Yep. But
I got a fax machine over there.
Yeah.
And it works.
We have a fax machine because we get fax.
We get the facts. It's terrible, Erik.
I know.
We should know better.
17.6 inches in Cuyahoga Falls. I don't know if you saw the comment from Melanie. And by the way, hi, Melanie. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Hi, Mel. How are you? Good to see you. I don't have that part of it up right now, but we'll get there. Anyway, what else are we going to talk about?
Well, we can. Did you see the Washington football team rename themselves finally?
I think they missed the name of that thing by just a tad. It should have been the Washington Commandos, not the Commanders.
Oh, yeah, okay. I get it. But, yeah. Well, they had to go...
And when you're rooting for them, you could go, let's go Commando!
Yeah, that's their motto. Oh, no. Please, don't be their motto. Sometimes I gotta think through before I say...
Yeah, I should do more of that. But I'm uncensored. What the heck?
That's what you bring to the show. Not thinking before you talk.
That's right. And I can be very entertaining when I do that.
Yeah. The entertainment value, that's what we need.
That's
right. Getting to our main topic, the Brian Flores lawsuit against the NFL for them not really taking the Rooney Rule, which is the interviewing for minorities for head coach and other executive positions, taking that seriously. And as I brought up pre-show, how are these guys getting some of these coaches? Like, there's a coach in, I'll use as an example, offensive coordinator in Kansas City, Erik. He gets multiple interviews a year. How has he not gotten a job yet? How is he still offensive coordinator when those guys, those owners talk at, league meetings and stuff? So I'm not saying that it would be collusion or anything, but they talk, so they know if he's a bad interview. Why would these teams be having him in if they didn't think he was?
Well, with the Rooney Rule, you got to understand, Erik, that's to do away with and equalize the amount of different races in the as far as in the lead positions of teams. So yes, it may be a bad interview, but it still has to be done. You have to do that. You have to interview so many people of color, whatever we want to.
I get that, but why is that person getting this every year, getting interviewed multiple times if they're not? Somebody doesn't find them qualified, and there's other minorities in the league.
Well, if they could do the same, basically, they could do the same thing with women. They could do the same thing with LGBT. TQ people. It's if you're going to take something like the Rooney Rule, that's what they're trying to set out for. And I understand the reason for the rule. What I don't understand is some of the stuff that's coming out around this. And you and I have talked about this earlier this evening, and we'll let everybody in on what we've talked about. And that is the idea of paying a coach to lose. Now, I don't watch football games I don't bet on them. I know better.
I don't either.
I think football, what do you call it?
Integrity of the game?
No. The fantasy football, I think that's a lot of fun. But I wouldn't bet any money on that either because I know better. Remember, I was 4-0 2 weeks ago on my picks. But what you have to understand, though, is that I watch the game for the game, and a lot of people do. A lot of people are excited when you get a couple of winners that aren't the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. But it also comes down to you can't be predictable with that.
No.
Not as predictable as some of this stuff has been. I'm not saying I'm not being accusatory or anything like that. Far be it for me to do that. But the simple fact of it is, something's going on.
Exactly.
When you can take 4 teams out of the playoffs, and you look at the comparisons of who's great and who's not, and you can take and you look at those teams and you think, Cincinnati and the Rams. That would be a hell of a game. That would probably be the best out of the 4 teams that were in there. Both other teams were favored in in the matches that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, not just one, but both. San Francisco was favored, and so was
the Kansas City.
Kansas City was favored. Both of them lost.
Yeah.
Now, if you ever watched NCIS, I'm not going to, this isn't a plug for them. But the main character on there had a set of rules. He's gone now, so I can probably talk about him a little bit. He had a set of 100 rules. And one of his rules was there ain't no such thing as a coincidence.
No.
And there ain't no such thing as a coincidence in the NFL either.
No. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier in the season with the Browns games and the crappy officiating.
Now,
I think that the fixing of games, I think, was shown during the regular season when there were clear calls that the ref would have to be blind or completely have his back turned to not see.
Now, let's take this a step further. Let's take a team such as the Browns that have never been in a Super Bowl. They've tanked a number of times since 1965, including a 32 or a 31-1.
1 in 31.
A 1-31 season. How can this happen? How? Is somebody getting paid?
Yeah.
Could it be?
Yeah.
This is, you got to when you're looking at teams like that, you got to start wondering, what the hell are they doing?
Well, they did. In as much as, I don't know if you saw any of the Sports Center interview with Hugh Jackson last night, but he wouldn't say they paid him, but he said it without saying, because he admitted they gave him an extension, which I think we've talked about before.
Yeah, I remember that.
He said that on a local talk show a few months back. But they gave him an extension halfway through his second or third year. No, second year. Then fired him 8 weeks later. But, they gave him an extension after going 1-31. Huh. Does that sound like paying off? Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah.
And then back to the Flores thing. There was an interview that we aren't going to play on the air for legal reasons, but that a local radio station in New York did with the lawyers for Brian Flores. And they said, the accusation, one of the biggest accusations, was that they had their head coach Brian Dable already picked before even interviewing Flores for the head coach, and allegedly half an hour after Joe Judge, the ex-head coach of the Giants, was fired, the owner called up Flores and was like, "You're our guy. We're going to do whatever we can to get you here."
Interesting.
And all of a sudden, Brian Dable was hired. That doesn't make sense. And then the texts between Belichick and Flores, the things I sent you, Pat, for saying congratulations, you got the job. And Flores was even like,
well,
what are you talking about? Do you know?
That by itself could be miscommunication between the owner and his staff. That doesn't necessarily mean there's anything crooked there.
But how would Belichick, even if they were hiring him, how would Belichick find out? Because he has, not legally, but they shouldn't be able to tell somebody else completely, and there might be legal issues there too.
You don't know how much texting and whatever's went on. That's a big organization. It's hard to tell what they've actually done.
But supposedly, they're from the Hugh Jackson interview on SportsCenter. He wouldn't get into it a lot, but he has mostly proof of them forcing him to lose, like messages and stuff that he is giving to the lawyers. And then with Flores, allegedly not only were they paying him, but the owner was trying to make him tamper with players on a yacht, allegedly. Like, when I say tamper, for those who listening who don't understand what I mean, if that player is under contract with another team in any sport,
you're not allowed to tamper.
They're not allowed to they're not allowed to talk to that player at all. As far, like, I don't know if they're...
A lot of that goes on in the NBA anyway.
Well, yeah,
those are what's known as the anti-tampering laws.
Mm-hmm.
But
those are
broke.
Through quote-unquote back channels, they, like all the super teams, those are all built through back channels. Oh, well, we're thinking of going here, have this player also talk to that team so we can all team up and get, the big three again. Like LeBron, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh. Or like Brooklyn did with, I think, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie. Like, they all, through back channels, communicated or collaborated, and they're now all on the same team.
How many times have you ever heard of a LeBron or a D. Wade or somebody like that actually going and helping their team get the players? That should be considered more tampering also.
Yeah.
It should not be up to the players. But there again, somebody like LeBron's running that team anyway.
Yeah.
And
LeBron runs the league.
And the fact of it is, he's just, he does as much tampering as any of them do.
But they don't consider it because they're all friends.
Alleged.
So
let's put it that way: alleged tampering.
Well, yeah, but they can't say, hey, they can't tell the players who they're allowed to talk to. Like,
no, this is true.
They can't make rules.
It used to really aggravate me when I'd see football teams playing. Back in my early experiences in the NFL, we're talking 60, 65, 70, right in there. And it used to aggravate the living daylights out of me if a player talked to another player on the field from the other side. Now you see that every day. Hell, in fact, when that Rams game was over, our good old buddy from Cleveland ran over to the other side and was consoling somebody because he lost. Give me a break.
I mean, trading jerseys, trading cleats, whatever. They do that all the time. And somebody we both listen to
they probably
all the time. Locally here, Gerard Cherry, who 3-time Super Bowl winner with the Patriots, always rips the players nowadays for all being friends and trading jerseys and stuff on the field after losing, and says how unprofessional that is. Well, he's right, but that's just today's society.
You just gotta hope. You gotta hope that they don't trade playbooks.
Like we talked about on the other show on Saturday, it's almost like the participation trophy group. Like, oh, if you don't win, it's okay, we'll still award you. Or if you don't win, you can go over, laugh it up with the team you just lost to. That's fine.
Yep, that's fine. I don't mind.
Yeah.
It's just, most of this, if any of this other stuff that we've been talking tonight comes true, talking about, as far as the not only the playoff or the payoffs between the player, the owners and the coaches, and if that does go on, that is just the tip of the iceberg, and I hope the whole iceberg comes out of the water, because I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it for as many times as I've had to sit and watch that Cleveland team lose. And year after year, every 2 or 3 years, tank so bad that it takes a complete rebuild to do it again. This is just, it's just unimagiable. And it would probably turn me off of football altogether. I probably wouldn't end up watching it, because it would be as bad as watching WWF wrestling.
SmackDown, yeah. It's. I mean, yeah, because so fake.
That's all fake. And sure, they're going to jump up on each other's shoulders and smack each other in the head and land them on the ground, and then they're so hurt they can't stand up, and give me a break.
Yeah. Because, if that was real, then they talk about the CTE in football. These guys would be brain damaged at a way younger age if the WWF, WWE, whatever they want to call themselves, or all those leagues, were all real and not staged. Those guys would have so much brain damage so quick that there'd be lawsuits left and right.
Well, the one thing that a lot of NFL players go through is the concussion things and the
protocols.
How many NFL players do you know who can't walk now? They've ruined their knees.
A lot.
There's quite a few of them. How many of them still have headaches from playing the games 20, 30 years ago?
I mean, you hear Bob Golick talk about it all the time, and I've heard him talk about the concussions. And, back in the day, it was, oh, you got your bell rung, just go back in the game. You might not be able to walk, but go back in the game. And now, if they sense anything possible, you're going into the tent. They have somebody in the booth up in the suites for people who don't know what I mean, listening by the booth, up in like the press box or whatever, watching, overseeing. So if they see somebody wobbling or struggling, they will call down to the refs and say, "Get this player off the field now." This is completely different.
Yep.
Back in the day, they didn't have the studies they do now.
Yeah, but they've made it a lot better as far as being fair to the opposing teams.
Oh yeah.
How many bad calls have you seen in some of these, especially the playoff games? How many bad calls? I can think of at least 12.
That
I've watched, including the one Cincinnati game where the whistle blew and they still gave them the points because it ended up in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
After the whistle blew.
The one play that we debated for about 20 minutes on Four Guys on Sports with the interception. Was it incomplete? Was it an interception? And the guy was literally using the ball to hold himself up.
I don't know if it was that bad. I didn't see what you guys saw. I saw it a little bit differently. But still, I think there needs to be some major changes in a lot of these sports.
Like using
it's not only the NFL.
Using that specific play, they need to modify the catch rule. You can't use the ground to aid because that's trapping it. Technically, isn't that trapping it?
Supposedly, if it hits the ground, it's a dead ball, and that would be an incomplete pass or catch or whatever. But
it simultaneously, the nose of the ball was touching as his hands were around the sides.
I'm not saying it wasn't, but I'm not saying it was, because the way I saw those replays, it didn't look like that ball was on the ground. It looked like he had a hand on it. And
he had his hand on it.
Unless you had a piece of paper under it and it had a mark on it, then you wouldn't know.
But it looked like it was on the ground. It looked like it was touching the ground, along with his hands around the sides of the ball, while the nose of the ball was dipped into the ground.
I didn't completely see that myself.
Well, I mean, when you were, you couldn't see it on real time.
The real
but
play,
when they slowed
it down, it didn't look like it was touching. At least it didn't to me.
Oh,
you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, it's kind of, whatever. It just, that was a sketchy call too. But, hey, it went against Cincinnati, too. Which, if they would have lost, there would have been a bigger deal made out of that than
I can think. You can go clear back 2, 3, 4 years with these bad calls by refs. There was one that cost New Orleans a trip to the Super Bowl that I still haven't.
Pass interference?
Yep. I still haven't gotten over that one.
Or the whole tuck rule with Tom Brady, which I think Tom Brady even admitted that it was a fumble.
And then you had...
which was like 15 years ago, but still.
You just have some... The way that... One of the things that needs changed in the NFL, in my opinion anyway, is the fact that you should, those referees should work full time for the NFL. If they're not in a game, refereeing a game, then they should be studying. They should know what the rules are. They should be practicing. They should be showed calls, what have you. They should use them in NFL practices more than they do. And,
the problem is that would mean the the owners would have to fork over more money, because the owners are the one who pays their paycheck.
No, wait,
no offense to the owners.
The piddly little amount that would, even if it was $1 million, how big is the NFL? How much income do they have?
The owners are cheap, though. I know that sounds crazy.
I don't care about $2-3 billion is what they get every year. Each owner, they can afford $50,000-$60,000 a piece.
I just saw Denver is the Broncos are up for their current owner is being offered $3 billion for the team. So obviously these guys have money to spend, but do they want to put it forward as, the refs, or do they want to put it forward as some other business thing, not the league? Whatever other businesses they're tied into. Do they want to put it in for themselves, or do they want to...
Oh, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. They want it for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And the NFL Players Association is probably one of the better unions as far as a sports league goes. And they do the same thing basically any other union does. They're there to protect their players for the most part. Locally, they don't do very much. But the national people, that's where your money starts coming from. And if it wasn't for the NFL Players Association, those players wouldn't be getting the kind of money they're getting now. Go back, Claire. You go back into the 60s when there was no NFL Players Association. Those guys had to take second, third jobs. And one guy that I can remember, I don't remember, he was a kicker for Cleveland, Cockcroft, I think. He drove. Okay. He had to drive cab in order to support himself.
Yeah, it was. I've heard that story before. But yeah,
if it wasn't for that, the Players Association, these guys wouldn't be getting as much money as they are. So God bless that.
And the fact that they are getting this much money, because nobody, no matter how good at a sport they are, no single person is worth $45 million a year. Okay, I know that's on a high scale for the really good players, but that's to my point. Nobody's worth that. Or even these baseball contracts where some guys over like 5-10 years are making $317 million. Nobody's worth that.
I'm worth that.
Well,
pick me.
Well, I mean, come on. Because I know you, obviously you're joking, but, no one single person is worth that. No matter how good at a sport you are, you don't deserve that. You don't deserve to get paid that much, especially in comparison to, these athletes who are complaining about their contracts. Yeah, there's a lot of people without jobs right now because of the pandemic. And, or people living paycheck to paycheck. Nobody wants to hear you complain that you're not making $45 million if you're currently making $18 million. Or just, I'm throwing out random. Okay, I'm taking shots at Baker Mayfield. But, because I do that whenever I get a chance.
Baker's off social media now, so you got to leave him alone.
Okay. But, yeah. Oh, yeah. He won't hear this at all. But, one Browns quarterback off social media. Another one running his mouth about Cleveland, or former Browns quarterback running his mouth about Cleveland on social media. Did you see Johnny?
Oh, yeah. Let me say a couple of things about that. If that kid would have actually put his money or put his actions where his mouth was when he was in Cleveland and actually got his crap together, he might have still even been here. But the simple fact of it was he had to party and let the fame go to his head. And now he's got to take and bash Cleveland because all his feelings were hurt.
And the funny thing is, I completely called him out on Twitter about that. He didn't say anything to me, anything like that, because he knew I was right. I'm like, you were too busy partying to. Hold on. Let me see if I could find it. But something along the lines of, hey Manziel, shut the hell up about Cleveland. It's not our fault. You were a failure in the NFL and got banned from the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, shouldn't be so nice to him.
No, yeah. Tell him what I really feel.
That somebody
true.
like him, that's just wasting effort. Everybody knows what he did. Everybody knows how he was. That's water under the bridge. What I'd like to see now.
Go ahead.
If I want to see. I'm anxious to see what comes out of this lawsuit, and all this chatter about the cheating and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that it's like taking and playing Jenga, and you pull the last thing that's going to make or that keeps the tower standing, and one more piece is going to knock it over. That's how this could end up, affecting that.
Unfortunately, like we were talking about before the show, I've heard a few different legal analysts say the courts aren't going to take him seriously. They have no leg to stand on. This might change the NFL.
It may be that way for what do you call it, Hugh Jackson, but I think Flores has got a case. I really do.
That's what they're talking about. The legal analysts aren't talking about Hugh Jackson. They're talking about Flores.
But if Flores' case comes to light and actually does prove that there was some cheating going on, there's going to be some explanations expected.
I mean, and the one legal analyst was also a lawyer that I was listening to, and she's like, they have no leg to stand on, and it might eventually change rules in the NFL, but the courts aren't going to
that's lawyer speak.
do anything.
That's lawyer speak. You don't really know how that's going to turn out. That's the difference between a corporate and a private attorney.
Well, this wasn't his lawyers. This is
that's
legal.
what I'm still saying.
Oh,
the
okay.
Representatives. I can talk big time like that all the time. Oh, you're not gonna get anywhere if you do that. All it's gonna do is do this, and well, you don't know that. I mean, I could say, Erik, I'm forbidding it to snow anymore.
Well, yeah.
It's not going to snow. I forbid it. If it snows anymore, I'm going to take it to court. And yet you look outside and guess what it's doing?
Yeah. I mean, though, if you read the whole lawsuit
until this stuff works its way through the court system, there ain't going to be much change, but the change is possible if it goes the right way.
Well, yeah, if the courts actually take it seriously. And from what it sounds like, they're really not going to.
Well, you never know. Depends on.
I think things should change. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of qualified minorities that aren't getting jobs. I do. And I think that should change. But because there's a lot of, I'll just say white coaches that fail after a year or two. And who knows what the minority coach could do. Maybe they would fail too. But look at the guy in Houston. He only got a year, didn't have a quarterback. They got him a stopgap quarterback who got hurt against the Browns. And then he played a rookie and I think only won like 3 games last year.
Who you?
David Culley.
Okay. I didn't realize he was for them.
Yeah. But he was named in the lawsuit too. And supposedly there's other executives and coaches that are going to be stepping forward. And something should be done.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of the whole compensation thing. If a minority gets hired, like the Browns, I forget how to pronounce his name, just lost the guy who's now the GM in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Well, he was a minority. So the Browns got 2 compensatory picks, one for this year, one for next year, because they had a minority in a high executive position get a promotion with another team. So, there's that in place to help. But they don't have that for coaches, I don't think. Like if, for example, if Joe Woods, the D coordinator, who's a minority, were to get hired, I don't think I could be wrong, and if anybody listening knows how that works, please comment and tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think he would get or the team would get any picks or compensation, which is wrong that they have to even compensate for doing what's right and giving somebody a job if they are qualified for it and do good at their job that they're in now. And if they're highly recommended and still not getting jobs, that's wrong that they're not getting a job. I mean, I think there is a little bit of collaboration between owners to keep some of these people out. I mean, people could use the analogy of, for a regular person looking for a job, if they don't get hired and they're applying all in the same industry, most likely in real life or in non-NFL, the owners of businesses don't talk.
The owners of businesses are going to hire who they want to hire. It don't matter. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying where the owners in the NFL, they talk amongst themselves.
The only way that you're going to get somebody, talk one of these owners or whatever, not only the NFL, but in businesses, the only way that you're going to get them to hire somebody that's marginal as to what they want is to incentivize them. Should the NFL incentivize the owners for hiring like that? I don't think there's that anymore. I don't think that's happening now. You can put 100 Rooney rules in there and still come up with the same thing if there's no
if they're not going to follow through on it.
So what do? Do you take and incentivize the owners and say, hey, we'll give you $100,000 if you take and hire a black coach?
I don't want to say anything controversial here, but, is there biased? Because I don't want to generalize, but most of it, well,
I think you'd probably find out that that's probably true, but you didn't hear that from me.
Yeah, that most of the owners are old white guys, and they grew up in the time of, segregation and stuff. So,
the league is progressing younger and younger all the time, though. Look at how many young. It used to be if your coach wasn't 55 years old, you weren't going to go anywhere. You didn't go anywhere.
Now it's about relating with players.
Now you've got somebody like Belichick that's 70-something and still fighting in the league every year. And you've got coaches like Stefanski and some of these 35-year-old kids that are making names for themselves left and right. I mean, hell, even Vince Lombardi was old when he coached. He was in his 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But there again, kids back then listened to the older people. Nowadays, if you put an old coach on the and he gets grumpy, Belichick, but nobody's going to listen to him.
That's a whole nother topic for another show, but just the kids in general these days not respecting the elders as, the people, as some people are taught. Like when you were a kid, you were taught to respect your elders. When I was a kid, I was taught that. But a lot of kids my age and younger don't respect their elders. I don't know if, and again, topic for another show, but I don't know if it's just because they were never taught or, nowadays with so many broken homes that, the single parent doesn't have time to teach their kid right from wrong because they're working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. So that kid is doing whatever they want, and there's no one around to stop them. But go ahead.
In these single parent homes, it differs between if you've got a male parent or a female parent.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the parents are divorced, if you still have both parents with somewhat of custody of the kids, it's going to turn out a lot different than what the kids are actually going to. Most children need an adult influence. They need a male influence as well as a female. The female is the soft side. The male teaches them the rules. I mean, the situation even I got here. I'm the male in this house. I'm the grumpy one. I'm the one that rules, and they all know it. If Papa grumps, it gets done. If he lets off a little bit, well, maybe it won't get done. But when I see it and I say, this is going to get done, damn it, and I expect it done. And when kids are told that and taught that, it's a lot different than not having that influence there.
And
because somebody's saying, get off your ass and go get this done. And
the problem is a lot of kids don't have that because it's usually the mother trying to raise on their own.
And it's all my poor baby's getting harassed. And I think that's why a lot of the reason society's in the shape it is now.
The problem is guys will get a woman pregnant but not want the responsibility of the child.
I can tell you when all this even started, Eric. I was there. You know when it started?
When?
Right around Woodstock.
Well,
right around the mid-'60s. Mid-'60s, when I was growing up, I'll tell you a little story here.
Mm-hmm. Story time with Pat.
The mid-'60s was a really wild time. You had a war going on. You had your kids didn't want to go to that war, let alone support the establishment or anything like that was dragging them into that. And it was between conservatism, which was probably in late 50s, which everybody, even if you watch old TV shows, in the 50s and 60s, all the parents were, how long has it been since you saw your father wearing a tie and a suit jacket at home?
Never.
Not going to happen.
No.
But that was the 50s. The 50s television thought that they were a guest in your home. And the television networks thought they were guests in your home. And that's why they dressed like they did.
Shows like I Love Lucy.
That's why you always saw June Cleaver in a dress. That's why you always saw you saw Beaver Cleaver in a nice shirt, and anytime you went out to play, he didn't get dirty.
Mm-hmm. The Waltons.
He walked everywhere, and
they were all in nice shirts, and the women were in dresses. And with the Waltons.
This is why a lot of that stuff happened. Well, society changed back in the early 60s. When you started getting the wars and you started getting rebellions and stuff, people didn't keep paying attention to stuff like that.
But
what they ended up doing was they rebelled, and it became a free love society. Mm-hmm. And then when that free love society happened, nobody was they weren't marrying. Your marriage rates dropped dramatically in the late 60s. And nobody got married. People were having kids. You had Woodstock, and a lot of that going on all over Woodstock. And next thing you know, you got children of the 70s that had one parent, and that was usually the mother.
And, the problem is, nowadays it's even worse because you got reality shows that are like the 16 and pregnant, which I think had the total opposite effect that they were supposed to.
On top of that, too, is you've invaded a drug culture on top of that. Mm-hmm. And that drug culture could be part of the reason that there's only a lot of these are only one person or one parent families. I'm not trying to make up excuses for this or anything like that. I'm just trying to give you the reasoning for it.
No, I totally see. But my point is, they don't have most of the time it is the father figure isn't there, and because they leave for one reason or another, because of they want to do the deed, but they don't want to stay around to have the responsibility for it. So, or I get if a relationship doesn't work out, but then there's what's called co-parenting, which the mother and the father, even though they're not together or with other people, they still work together to help be on the same page and work with each other for the sake of the kid. That's what they have nowadays. Well, a lot of people don't do that. It's more turning the kid against the other.
Well, I suppose there is some truth to that. In order to...
And it's more about buying the kid's love than actually loving the kid. It's one parent will buy the kid a game system, the other one buy them, a car or something nice. Like, it's outdoing the other one instead of trying to work together to make the kid's life easier.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Like buying the kid off, mostly, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, got anything else we want to talk about tonight before we wrap?
I don't think so.
All right, why don't we just call it early? We're at about an hour and 5 minutes anyway, so that's cool. We'll do more next week.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for listening to the show. We'll be back next week from 6:30 to around this time, maybe 8. But tune in on Saturday for Four Guys on Sports.
11 a.m.
At 11. What?
11 a.m.
Yeah. It's 11 to around noon. Then Sunday 7 to 9 p.m. With Radioactive. That should be a good show. I think
with Radioactive, let me make a quick comment. This week we're going to do a special show that's going to. We would like, if you're going to listen in, we'd like you to take and go get yourself some hot chocolate. If you are prone, or if you're able to do so or want to do so, take and get some peppermint schnapps and a peppermint stick. We're all going to. The show is going to serve. We're all going to be drinking peppermint schnapps cocoa out of an awesome time.
We're doing that.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
That's good to know.
I think that's good. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So,
are we going to do Dale's topic?
Where I think he wants us to wait till he gets home. So
okay.
I told him we would. He's coming back in the 14th.
Oh.
So, which is what, 2 weeks from now?
Next Monday, or 2 Mondays.
2 Mondays from now, so he should be home by then. But anyway, tune in for that to Radioactive Sunday night, 7 to 9. And be a lot of fun. And then Tuesday nights we do, we did a hell of a show with Jerry last week at World According to Elmer. Was probably one of the best shows we've ever done. I took the lead, and we actually talked about Skywarn weather and the actual how to measure snow. It was a heck of a show. We ran.
Well, before we wrap up, explain more what the Skywarn is.
Skywarn is a national program that we're all weather observers, and it's an NWS program, and they use volunteer weather observers to take ground truth information in from the field, and that helps them create their warnings and all that kind of stuff, and their and eventually the information they take in ends up in the public record. So a lot of insurance companies and that use the public record to make sure somebody's not trying to pull the wool over their eyes. But basically, that's that show. If you get a chance, I want to go back and listen to it. It's here on Crooked River. If you're on Facebook, especially, you can find it there. Well, we did the talk was on. We started off with Skywarn, then we went into Winter Skywarn, which is what they weather observing during the winter, and then we ended up with this thing called Coco Raws, which is a group that actually they record precipitation, and not just snow or rain or what have you, but it records precipitation amounts, and they use observers to do that. All in all, really interesting show. We ran about 20 minutes over, and had a blast doing it.
I would like to also add, if anyone is interested in becoming a weather spotter, and Pat could tell you more about that too, there's classes, and maybe I'm wrong on.
The classes usually start at the end of March, and they run probably through April into May. Some of it's online, some of it your local emergency management Homeland Security and Emergency Management usually hosts those. I know the Akron area gets one at the Akron Red Cross every year. But that, if you're interested in any of that, or even if you want to, or you're interested in amateur radio, that get a hold of me or let me know through one of the social media places, and I'll see if I can get you hooked up on things to study and everything to get into the hobby. Find it a lot of fun. When are you doing it? When are you doing it, Erik?
Yeah. Actually, my dad was asking me the same thing. If I would ever do it, I'm like,
you got to talk him into doing it with you. It's more fun to learn, when you got somebody to compete against.
Yeah.
I know, to be honest about it, my wife is a ham. My deceased wife was a ham. And my wife now's daughter is a ham. She's actually an amateur extra like I am. And one of my daughters is, Justine is actually a ham.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew that.
And so, what's that, Flora? And her husband is one too. And yeah, he's an extra. But it tends to run in families once one gets started because the kids see how much fun it is, decide they want to do it too. And it beats the hell out of CB radios.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
And also, to any of my friends listening, I'm always open for suggestions for topics for the show, and I meant to mention this last week. And for anybody interested who throws out a topic, there's also a spot for you open on the show that week, because I always like to get perspectives from different people on things. So for my friends or anybody to do with the station, contact me, throw out a topic. You can be on the show too.
We can actually have you use our celebrity call-in line.
Yes.
And that's cool.
We do have that.
That's cool.
Yes.
All right. Are we ready?
So have a good night, everybody. Have a good week. And I will talk to y'all Sunday on Radioactive.
And we'll see you Sunday. 7-3, y'all. This has been a Crooked River Media production.